Hey friends, this is Darnell coming to you once again from the beautiful Bedrock Ministry Studio as we march forward with America in Bible Prophecy. In the lesson today, we're going to pick up where we left off. We have been looking at the first 4 of 7 seals in the book of Revelation in chapter 6. And we have determined already that these seals were opened by Jesus. Verse 1 says the Lamb, which is the Lamb of God. So Jesus opens these seals. And we've already discussed how these seals released these 4 cherubim, 4 angels, to unleash ideologies into the world, is essentially what it comes down to. 2 of these ideologies are political in nature, and 2 of them are religious. We've already gone through the first 3 seals in more detail. The first seal was the white horse. There was clues given, and we looked at them, and we determined that those represent Catholicism, one of the religious of the 2 on the religious spectrum. The second seal and the third seal were political in nature. The first one was a red horse, which represented communism, and the second, a black horse, or actually the third seal, a black horse, which represented capitalism. So we are going to arrive today at the 4th seal and look in more detail at that. Let's pick it up in verse 7 of chapter 6 in the book of Revelation, which says this. When he opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. Now let's just stop right there, because we've been talking about the significance of the colors of these horses. Very significant. It may not have made much sense back when these writings were actually written by John. And we know that the Old Testament counterpart to this is Zechariah's vision in Zechariah chapter 6. We'll look at that in a moment. But these colors are certainly significant today, because as we've already talked about how white fits Catholicism, red fits communism, black fits capitalism. Well, this says pale horse, but I mentioned before that the actual Greek word, remember the New Testament was written in Greek, not in English. So the actual Greek word is chloros, which actually means green. It's kind of understandable why the translators translating the Bible into English said green horse. So that doesn't make much sense. Let's go with pale. But if you're looking at it from a natural sort of perspective, green horse doesn't really make sense. But when you're looking at what these represent in reality, it makes perfect sense, because green actually is the color of Islam. Now you can do your own research on this and look at, pictures all across the Muslim world, and you find out that green very much is their color. A lot of their flags across the Muslim world are green, their buildings, their fences, all these different things. I'll give you another example that's very close to home for us. When Barack Obama was president, 1 year of his presidency, on 9/11, which made this even all the more audacious, he actually lit up the Empire State Building in green to honor the Muslim world and we know that 9/11 falls during their holy month of Ramadan. So he understood, and the whole world understands, that green represents Islam. That's what this is saying here, when it says a pale horse, or a chloros horse, which is actually a green horse. Now, I mentioned before that in Zechariah's vision, all of the colors of the horses were the same as in John's, except for the last one. In Zechariah's vision, he didn't say a green horse. Let me read it to you again. It says in Zechariah 6, I'll start in verse 1. It says, "Again I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, 4 chariots came out from between 2 mountains, and the mountains were mountains of bronze. The first chariot had red horses," so there's the red. "The second had black horses. The third white horses," so those 3 are the same. He says the fourth chariot, dappled horses, all of them strong. Now, most translations use strong, dappled as the translation. King James says grizzled and bay horses, but if you go to the original language that the Bible was written in, now I said the New Testament was written in Greek. The Old Testament, all of the Old Testament was either written in Hebrew or Aramaic. But you go to the actual language that this was written in, and you find out that the key word here is amates. And let me read this description to you of what this means. Amates is a verb, and it actually means to be strong, alert, courageous, brave, stout, bold, solid, hard. Wow, think about those terms when you think about the acts of Islam that we're seeing carried out in the world today. It goes on to further describe it. Hard actually represents a hardened heart. It says to make obstinate, to be determined, to exhibit strength. My goodness, when I think about terrorism, Islamic terrorism today, when I think about what's going on all over the world in the name of Islam, and then I look at that description there, I think that fits perfectly in my mind, my friends. Now let's jump back to chapter 6 of Revelation and go on in verse 8. It says, "And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed him." Now, this is interesting because, again, God is giving us clues that fit perfectly for the day and age that we're living in now. Death is really the calling card of radical Islam today. Have you noticed that? They actually glorify death. They believe that if you die while inflicting death on the infidels, which is what they call anybody that doesn't follow the teachings of Muhammad, if you die in the process of killing infidels, then you are like a hero in the Muslim world. They believe that if that's how you die in jihad, that you are going to immediately go to paradise and have the favors of 72 dark-eyed virgins. So they glorify this. The death is, where Christianity glorifies life and is all about life, Islam is really a religion from that perspective of death, and they believe that when you die you go to paradise. But this says its rider's name was Death, and Hades, which is hell, followed him. Well, if you're a follower of Christ and of the Bible, you know that anybody that dies without the Savior, Jesus Christ, is going to hell. I mean, that's just that's not the opinion of Darnell. That is Bible. There's only one way to the Father, and that is through the Son, Jesus. So where they think they're going to hit paradise and they glorify death, it's actually Hades or hell that follows. So that fits perfectly. It goes on to say, and they were given authority over a fourth of the earth. Now this particular sentence here has been misrepresented sometimes throughout religious teaching in Christianity, because they have represented oftentimes that this says that they will kill a fourth of the earth, but that's not what it says. It says that they were given authority over a fourth of the earth. Now, whether you look at the Islam world and the Muslim faith from a geographical, territorial perspective, or from a population sort of numbers perspective, this fits perfectly, because Islam has strongholds in Africa, in Asia, certainly in the Middle East, now in Europe. You're talking about 25% of the globe. When you look at it from a numbers perspective, there's approximately 1.6 billion Muslims in the world today. And if you look at how many people are on the planet, you find out that that's about 25% there too. So that fits perfectly, and just the fact that it fits perfectly in today's day and age at this certain time just lends credibility to the Bible and to the prophetic timeline. These things fall into place. These clues that were given to us fall into place perfectly when you consider the time that we're living in. And that's, again, lends credibility to the Bible, because I will remind you that back in Daniel in the Old Testament, when he was inquiring about what the visions and dreams and things that he was seeing, what they all meant, he was told, don't worry about it, Daniel. The understanding of these things is sealed. It's hidden until the day of the end. So it's this generation that these clues mean something. And as I've said before, that just explains how these things could be mistaught and misrepresented up until now, because what's been taught about the meaning of the book of Revelation and the seals and the trumpets and all these things was taught, it was sort of passed down from generation to generation. Well, if it wasn't meant to be understood until now, then it's not hard to understand why those teachings got sort of off track. So it's exciting to know that we are in the day and age now where God is revealing these things. And when I look at these clues, whether it's from the first seal, the white horse, the second seal, the red horse, the third seal, the black horse, or the fourth seal, the green horse, the chloros horse, the clues that follow and are included with those descriptions fit so well with what we are seeing in the world today. It's an exciting time truly that we live in. So it goes on to say they were given authority over a fourth of the earth to kill with the sword. Let's stop there for a moment. Boy, if radical Islam is doing anything in today's world, it's through force. It's through the sword, sometimes figuratively and sometimes quite literally, as they use the blade and have used the blade to actually behead people. But whether they're beheading them or killing them through explosives or vehicles or however they're doing it, they intend to bring jihad to the world, to bring their goal, their objective is to ultimately bring the whole world into submission to the teachings of Muhammad. That's actually the definition of Islam, is submission. So to kill with the sword and with famine and with pestilence. Well, that's starvation and disease. As I said, strongholds in the world today of Islam include Africa and in areas of Asia where poverty and disease are rampant. They're just running rampant today. So once again, these clues fit perfectly. And then it says, and by wild beasts of the earth. Now, if you go back into the original language and you really look at this, I don't believe this is talking about animals. I believe these wild beasts are talking, it's really bestial beings. And when I think of the acts that are being carried out by radical Islam today, as I said, not only where they are beheading people that won't renounce their Christianity or won't line up with the teachings and convert to Islam. They're beheading them. They're putting them in cages and dousing them with gasoline and lighting them alive on fire. They're putting them in cages and putting them underwater to drown. These are brutal acts. These are brutes. They're bestial men. They're inhumane the way that they are trying to accomplish their goals. So once again, that clue fits perfectly. So as we look at that entire seal from verse 7 down through verse 8, clue after clue after clue, including the ones given in Zechariah chapter 6, fit perfectly with Islam, and that is by not by accident, because these four seals represent these predominant competing ideologies. You've got capitalism and communism competing for control. You've got Catholicism and Islam, the two largest religions in the world today. Now, who is ultimately going to rise to the top? There can't be four in the end. Ultimately, there's going to be one world government, and there's going to be one world religion. The false prophet is going to head up or rule the one world religion and bring the one world religion to fall in line under the Antichrist and have and ultimately a one world governmental system, which will include religion. So there's a showdown in a sense coming. There's a standoff, and it's coming to a head, and one on each side is going to rise to the top, and that is what we're going to be covering in the next lesson, on the next video. So come back and join me. I'm going to leave it there for now, but you don't want to miss the next lesson, because we're going to start to look at what we can possibly expect to see in the very near future. This is Darnell coming to you from the beautiful Bedrock Ministry studio. Now let's go change the day.